Want to get more kills and more wins in Breachers VR? Well then listen up for these 9 important tips and tricks to get you more kills and wins. Tip number 1, headshots do big damage. Let's start with the pretty straightforward tip. If you've ever played a shooter of any kind before, VR or flat screen, then you know to aim for the head. Headshots always deal more damage than limb or body shots in basically every shooter ever made. If you peek into a room and get instantly killed by another player in Breachers, that's because they hit you in the head. Body or limb shots actually take quite a few hits to down a player in Breachers VR, so aiming for the head is the key to quickly take out other players. Still, unlike some other shooters, headshots are not always an instant kill in Breachers VR. How much damage a headshot does depends on the weapon that you're using. For instance, submachine guns like the Omen or Viper won't kill an enemy with a single headshot. The same goes for all pistols except for the Taurus revolver. Rifles, however, are almost all one-tap headshots. Hit an enemy once in the head with a Vezin, and down they go. Tip number 2, doors and door blockers have gaps. As you probably already know, each round all of the entrances to the buildings will have barricades over the door frames and windows. As the revolters, you can also place door blockers on doors and windows. What you might not know is that any of these barricades or door blockers that are put on a door will have a gap at the bottom. Windows are still airtight and don't have any gaps, but doors give you just enough space at the bottom to see feet. You can shoot at feet through this gap, though doing any meaningful damage will be pretty hard. Still, you can be seen through this gap, and so any enemies on the other side of the door will know you're there. The best thing about these gaps is that they're big enough to roll a grenade through. Rolling a frag through the gap will blow up the door and might surprise anyone waiting on the other side. Drones can also fly through these gaps to scout out the room on the other side of the door, so always mind the gap. Tip number 3, improve your recoil with attachments. Want your gun to shoot better? Well then invest in some attachments. They're relatively cheap and can make the difference when you're firing full auto, even in close quarters. The best attachment to improve your weapon's recoil is the front grip. This attachment reduces your recoil when you're holding the weapon with both hands and is available for most rifles and SMGs. Tip number 4, keep your money in mind. On the topic of things that cost money, basically everything in Breachers does. This game is a little like Counter-Strike Global Offensive or Valorant like that. Managing your money is a key way to make sure you'll always have the guns and gadgets that you'll need to be effective in every round. If you're wondering whether you're spending too much money, you can see the minimum amount of cash you'll have the next round under your name in the corner of the buy menu. So keep that amount in mind if you get killed and your team loses, because that might be all you have for the next round. You'll have this minimum amount if you get no kills and your team loses the whole round. Getting kills nets you more cash, and you'll also get more money after a round ends if your team wins that round. Still, don't worry about saving your money on round 6. Teams switch on round 7, and you won't keep any of it, so spend as much as you can on round 6. Tip number 5, loot bodies. You won't necessarily have to spend money to get better equipment though. Every player drops all of their weapons and gadgets when they die. So even if you're broke, you can always get a good gun or gadget off of a dead enemy or teammate. This also applies for when the round ends. Instead of just standing around waiting for the next round to begin, check any nearby bodies. They might have a better and more heavily modified version of the weapon that you have, or have free gadgets if you still have any open gadget slots. Anything you have on your body before the next round starts stays with you. Even if you don't want anything you find yourself, you can always give them to a teammate during the next buy phase. You can also pick up a weapon on the ground if you run out of ammo for the one that you have. Though also keep in mind that you can't pick up gadgets that are specific to the other team's faction. So if you're a revolter, you can't pick up flashbangs or drones. And if you're an enforcer, you can't pick up door blockers or trip mines. Tip number 6, lean around corners with your real body. One of the things that makes Breachers VR unique among multiplayer VR shooters is that you can actually lean. In a lot of other VR shooters, if you physically step to the side, your entire body will move, exposing all of it to any potential opponents. In Breachers, just physically lean or step around a corner, and your character will lean and only expose their upper body to incoming bullets, though their legs will catch up next time you use your joystick to move. Tip number 7, be quiet and crouch walk.
Probably make some noise. So yeah.
Sound is key in Breachers, and so this might be the most important Breachers VR tip on this list. Your footsteps are very loud, since each Breachers VR map is set in the confined space of a building. The directional audio in Breachers is also very good, which means that you can easily hear which direction footsteps are coming from and know where your enemies are coming from. Footsteps are especially loud when sprinting, and so you may not want to turn on the auto sprint option in the settings menu, because if you're always sprinting, you will always make a ton of noise. Luckily, you can also make less noise by crouch walking. You can either physically crouch, or press the crouch button and keep standing, and then use your joystick to move as usual. When you are crouch walking, you'll move much more slowly, but your footsteps are quiet, and enemies won't be able to hear you coming. So if you want to surprise anyone, make sure you crouch walk, or they might hear you. Tip number 8, you can shoot through walls. You can actually shoot through walls in breachers. So if you know an enemy is on the other side by hearing them or through a teammate's call out or ping, then you can shoot them through that wall. Walls that can be breached can all be shot through, and so can some furniture or thin walls inside of rooms. Different weapons will penetrate to different degrees though, so the heavier your weapon, the better it will penetrate and deal damage to opponents on the other side. Tip number 9, ping and communicate. Breachers VR is a team game, and great teamwork will get you and your teammates more kills and more wins. Use your ping button. With it, you can mark enemy locations so that other team members aren't taken by surprise, or so that they can surprise your enemies. Pings can also mark useful weapons and gadgets on the ground, enemy objects like traps and planted EMPs, and obstacles like breachable walls and barricaded doors.
One more.
There's one right where... Babish.
1, 2.
He's right there, that's him.
Got him.
Nice, reality.
Your pings and your microphone are your best tools to win by communicating and helping your teammates. And for a quick bonus tip, please play the tutorial. Make sure you play the tutorial. It will cover a lot of the basics and will teach you them way better than any article or video can. You'll learn how to use all of the gadgets and the basics of the game, so if you haven't already, go play the tutorial. It's worth it and you'll learn something. Anyway, those are all the Breachers VR tips we have for you. This has been Reality Remake. Thanks for watching.